What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today when I talk to you about Lucid, I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's really moving Lucid, and then over and above that, just kind of elaborate a little bit further on my video that I put out yesterday. So I'm going to go over all that, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. Starting off, Lucid is down 1.95%. No news from Lucid, no SEC filings, nothing like that. So it is just piggybacking off of the broader market. This morning, initial jobless claims did come out, 238 the actual, 235 the forecast, so a little bit higher, so not necessarily the best. I think initially there was a lot of optimism because people were correlating that with interest rate cuts, as what typically does happen. But all in all, it did also bounce off of a very big resistance point, and that's on the larger scale. So the S&P did hit that 5,500 mark, and obviously I think that is causing people to think, should we be here? So I think that's kind of causing a little bit of fear all in all. You see a lot of articles already talking about that, but still, beside the point, no specific news associated to Lucid. Of course, there was that stuff that did come out yesterday about Lucid trademarking the Lucid Ocean. So kind of taking Fisker's name away from that. Of course, when I did bring that up in my video yesterday, some people are saying that's bad omen, which you never know, right? Fisker just recently filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So yeah, I kind of get that viewpoint that it's not necessarily the best, but obviously here we are. So when it comes down to Lucid, the only other thing that really came out of substance to kind of bring up vaguely, so Lucid 2030 did tag me in this on Twitter, and so just translating this. So it looks like the chairman of the board of directors of 𝗪𝗚𝗧𝗛𝗧, if I think I butchered their name, but still, regardless, increased their stake in Lucid by 700% and currently owns 0.01% of Lucid. So I think that's kind of a good thing, but still, once again, this isn't really a good reason to go out and buy Lucid, nor is it a reason to sell. Today, shorts aren't doing all that much. They're increasing around 10,000 shares, 28.82% of the free float is currently being shorted. That works out to be 255.22 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization 100%. Cost to borrow average is 26.55%. And then short score, so the higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening, is 95.31. So still, Lucid is a squeeze stock. It just needs a catalyst, and right now there's a lot of speculative rumors going around, such as the whole Hyundai thing and many others, but nothing definitive to go out and buy Lucid based off of. So that's why you do see, as far as institutions, not really doing all that much. So only one transaction being done today on the secondary market above $100,000, and based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price, it was a sell. So still not necessarily the best, but I do want to talk on a couple things before I go over options and whatever else. But in my video yesterday, which was under Financial Journey, I talked on how essentially BlackRock and Vanguard increasing their position and kind of just holding Lucid is somewhat bad. And so I'm going to quickly pop over to IBKR. This is all the latest analyst ratings on a side note, but nothing really changed. So it still shows last month and blah, blah, blah. But going over to the ownership. So currently you do have Vanguard with 83.52 million shares of Lucid, BlackRock 31.21 million. And so essentially what I did bring up yesterday is through their ETFs, there could be a lot of synthetic shares being created at no fault possibly to Vanguard or BlackRock, but just because of the T+3 kind of causes some overlap. And thus, this is where some shares could be lent out or possibly even shorted, and where it'd be like naked shorting kind of avenue, right? So a lot of people said that maybe I was wrong. Well, they didn't say I was wrong. What they did say is in my video that the PIF wasn't lending out their shares, and a lot of people surprisingly disagreed with me on that. So I just wanted to vaguely talk about that. Right now, the PIF does own 1.37 billion shares. So let's think about this for a second. So let's say they are using whatever broker obviously they can get, right? So quickly going back over to the short aspect. So let's say they had that 1.37 billion shares and they were lending it out because they wanted to bring in some revenue, right? So they'd be getting around 26 or 27%, that's if it stays constant for the whole year. So yeah, that would bring in a lot of good revenue. Obviously, their underlying asset would be going down, so they'd be losing money that way. But hear me out. So I started to think about a lot of people kind of commenting, saying that the PIF might be lending out their shares, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's assuming that they are shorting, just lending out their shares just to collect some revenue. But here is the problem with all of that, and why it might actually be accurate that the PIF might be lending out shares. And that is because of the recent issuance of $1 billion to the affiliate of the PIF, that preferred stock. I did a couple of videos. I said how horrific that was for Lucid, because they did have that formula in there, because it has a non-dilutive kind of clause in it. So essentially, the more the actual stock price goes down, the more shares are issued as that preferred share is converted into common stock. So this is where at the time I said that's part of the PIF's plan, bigger picture, to get more shares and blah, blah, blah. But if you think about it, if the PIF is lending out their 1.37 billion, they're going to be getting at least some revenue, right? Lucid stock price is going down, so they're going to be losing money. But in essence, once that preferred share is converted, then they are going to get 10 times as many shares. So it would kind of offset their losses, if that makes sense, to some regard, right? I can do a little bit more of a deeper video all about this and kind of breaking it down on what I do truly mean, and I can kind of go over that formula as well. But I just wanted to bounce this idea off of you. Like I said, I'm not here to say the PIF is shorting, because they definitely are not. But in my video yesterday, I said that they aren't lending out their shares. A lot of people disagreed with me on that. And so that started to get me to think about, would they be lending out their shares? And if so, why? So I don't know, it's a lot of speculation at this stage in the game, but no matter what though, I think it's just because Lucid has been heavily shorted almost since the beginning of time, and it's questionable. And like I've said, I think in reality, it's either someone has a vendetta and wants to somehow really damage the PIF through Lucid, or it might be the PIF itself, right? So I don't know. I just wanted to bounce that idea off of you guys. Do you think the PIF is truly lending out shares? And if so, why? Do you think it is to kind of bring Lucid's stock price down? That way they get more shares through the preferred stock, that conversion? Or do you think it's just to collect some much needed revenue through lending out their shares? So what's your thoughts on that? But quickly moving on, looking at options, 121,000 in calls, 185 in puts. Sentiment wise, 43% of all the options being done so far today are optimistic and bullish. Looking at the open interest currently, you do see 17,000 at that 250, 3,000 or 30,000 at that $3 strike price. So this is where you might see shorts a little bit more active tomorrow, because market makers will not want Lucid to close above 250, or else market makers will have to go to the secondary market to buy this 1.7 million shares. And of course, they don't want to do that, right? They'd rather suppress it through shorting below that 250. So just watch for shorts the rest of today as well as tomorrow to be very, very active. And when it comes down to it, right now with it at $2.54, it is trading between these 2 points, so this S1 and the pivot. So it did bounce off this general area, this S1, so just watch for that to continue to hold into the next couple of days. And then vice versa, $2.59 is going to be that next strong resistance / target for Lucid. On the actual chart itself, so it is lower percentile of the boiling band, you do see stochastic very oversold, no defined trend right now, and number of retail investors have been getting out. So all in all, kind of an interesting day, somewhat of an overreaction, but let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Do you think that it is going to be closing below $2.50 for this week, or do you think it's going to stay above? And what's your thoughts on the whole PIF lending out their shares? Do you think that's valid or not? One final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and they give you 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. Kick-ass deal, link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.